Welcome to Outside Game, the podcast where we talk about sports, current events, and any other things we want to talk about. I am the host with the most, Keith Bulluck, joined by my main man, Don Povia. What's up, Don?
Mr. Monday Night. That's going to be our thing.
You know.
The host with the most, Mr. Monday Night. Good to be here, Mr. Bulluck. How are you?
Great, man. You know, like always, we have another interesting guest.
Interesting. There's no real rhyme or reason to our guests either, too, which I kind of like.
It's better that way.
We just flow with it.
Me being a former athlete, they're going to think, oh, it's all sports and football, and you being a jack of all trades, they're just going to think that you're just going to get guys of jacks of all trades.
Don's just hanging out with Keith, that's all. Yeah, we're joined by an interesting one. From our world, at least, right? It's interesting for us. But, you know, he's like one of the East Coast Kardashians, I think, right? Social media extraordinaire,
Real Housewives,
right? Reality TV star. We got Albie Manzo here.
What's going on, guys?
Good. How are you?
No, I'm good. I mean, honestly, this is it's wild. You guys are already a lot better than me at this whole thing, so I'm jacked up in the head.
We had like this is like our fifth take at our one. It's like you know what I'm saying? Like
I kept sending him cuts and he kept rejecting them.
Yeah, we've had some dry runs.
I don't have the whole podcast intro thing down at all. I've basically given up hope on all that.
I just went with it the first time we did one, and I'm just sticking with it. I feel like we have to start building some consistency, to give our listeners, and that's what I'm going to go with until I'm told otherwise.
I'm feeling the professional setup too, right? I like the sound. I like the mics. We got two producers in the back. Thank you, Nando and Brianna.
Nando, DiFino.
Right, we got Rich over here taking some pictures and doing some social media. How does this compare with Mom's Basement, though?
Killed it. Actually, you know what? They got a really nice setup down there, and it was the type of thing that I was always super sensitive about. We never filmed down there because it sounds exactly what it is. It's a studio in my mother's basement, which is like the millennial thing to do, which is like you're doing a podcast from Mom's Basement. And I was like, this thing is toast. But it's actually a pretty cool setup down there.
Yeah. So like, what got you into the podcast? I mean, obviously, you were on reality TV, but I don't care. We're talking about the podcast part. You know what I'm saying? What got you into the podcasting? Because you kill it on the podcasting, man.
We're having fun, man. I mean, the reality TV thing, and like I'm down to
obviously a spin-off. It was a spin, opportunities.
You know what? It was funny. When we came off TV, it wasn't really something that like defined us so much. Right. I went to college here in New York on my way into law school, and it was like, hey, we might be doing this TV show thing. And I figured it was like, going to go a year maybe, and next thing you know, we're doing it for like 10 years. 5 seasons of Housewives and 3 seasons of our own show, and did a show with Chris. And on that show, Chris kind of like basically threw this idea at me one day to say, look, take some old Dear Abby questions and we'll ask them to you. And we had a good time with it. And, they said, look, this could be a cool podcast. And that just, for all the reasons I threw at you guys before, I was like, man, like this would be what a B-level reality star would do. And I'm like, we're going to get just completely destroyed. And we put that thing out there. I remember exactly where I was. It was a Tuesday. I looked up Instagram analytics and stuff of like when the worst possible time to promote something was. So when it went bad, I'd be like, oh, well, dude, you did it like Tuesday at 1 o'clock.
Right.
And that's what I did. And I put the phone down. And just kind of like came upstairs, and that night everybody was calling me saying, look, you see where what it was doing? The feedback was really, really awesome. And it became just kind of like an avenue to kind of reconnect with everybody, and it's probably been about as insane as the show ever was as far as like that goes. And it's a good time.
So like take us through a little bit through reality television. And like first and foremost, I must say, I guess if I did watch, I don't even know how I did, but I did watch when it was Jersey, and like I've always thought your mom was like the most realest person, just because it's a reality show, and we know that some people do it for TV, do it for the cameras and whatnot, but like your mom really came off to be like the most genuine out of all the women on TV, and you know, it's obviously a testament to who you and your brother are. But
thank you, man.
yeah, you know, what is she like off camera? I'm sure she's the same, but like when it's just you and you guys' personal time.
You know what? What's wild is, and this is probably what I would say, she really is just the same way.
I imagine
and I think it's the best and worst part of what I think made us, you know, work on that show, but also made us not a great fit for reality TV long term. We weren't going to turn on each other just because to make a show interesting. It's like, you know, if I'm pissed off at you, you're going to know, and if we're getting along, we're getting along. Like, we're not just going to make it up. She's awesome, man. Like, I hit the jackpot with my parents big time, you know, and it's just the type of thing that, you know, reality TV in general is like, when we first got rolling, it was, people don't totally remember the context. Like, there was barely Twitter at the time. And like, you're going through that, and then, you know, that becomes a bigger thing, and then Instagram becomes a thing. And it's like, it was a pretty wild, you know, few years for us. Like, you know, it's just doing things that I could have never really expected to do. You know what I mean? Like, getting exposed to guys like yourself, for example, like, you know, growing up worshiping the Giants, and then I'm at the Super Bowl. You know what I mean? Like, that's crazy. You know what I mean? So we just kind of always kept it in our heads. Like, we make fun of each other so badly that I don't think we were ever going to let it like blow us up. And when it went away, it was kind of like, in a stranger, it was almost kind of nice. You know, like we just, you know.
Before it went away, it had to come about, right? Was this sort of a family decision, or
Dude.
were mom and dad like, "Hey guys, get on board, we're doing this"?
It's the most New Jersey story you've ever heard.
Were you guys in? You weren't in the beginning, the original ones, were you? Or were you guys in it the whole time?
We were in the whole time, and
so.
I didn't necessarily expect to do that. It's my understanding that me and my brother were actually the first people that they sent out doing press, like on the Housewives shows, because they had kids on, but it wasn't necessarily a bigger thing. So there was some kind of casting director that went out to all these salons in New Jersey. This is like, you know what I mean? It's horrible. Everything is exactly what it sounds like. You know what I mean? And but you know, whatever. Here's where it lands, I guess. And they casted these 5 women. 2 of them drop out. And there's a casting director that goes and interviews my mom, my brother, and my sister. And I just kind of hear about it later on in the day, and I'm like not thinking much of it. And they brought it up to us that they were actually gonna do it. And next thing I know, at my graduation party, there's a bunch of cameras around. Wow. And it was just like that. And no joke, I tell this story all the time. I walked in, there was a bar in Totowa, New Jersey. I waited 10 minutes outside, okay, 46 Lounge. Yep. I waited 10 minutes outside, okay. I paid $20 to get in. I got, you know, a Corona at the bar, was trying to get these girls to talk to me and whatever, and was just normal. The show aired that Wednesday or Thursday. That weekend, they paid me to show up. And I was like, yo, this is not real life. Like in a weird way, I was actually kind of happy it happened that way, because I saw so clearly how it just is not real. Like, you're the same dude that was here within however many days. And yeah, it kind of stuff like that kind of stuck with me.
Yeah, you know? It kind of reminds me of that scene in Trading Places when Eddie Murphy goes back to that old bar and he has all the money. And he's like, "What you doing there, sucker?" He's like, "I got your money. My limo's outside." And he has the party at his house last week.
They cools out on my floor.
The week before, they didn't even know him, but now you know.
It's Persian, man.
He got some money. He's on TV. Ooh, I see you. I'll buy you a Corona tonight, baby.
It's wild, man.
So it seems very level-headed, right? You get it, right? Here's the reality. Here's the reality quotes. Do you feel like you embraced it, or was it just something that was like, all right, I'll just roll with it, or you're like, you know what, I'm gonna own this?
It's a little bit of everything. I think it's because I think we looked at it where there were elements of that like I knew were things that you just kind of have to run with and have fun. Like, there were people that you were becoming friendly with that, you know, we had to learn to read people really, really well, okay?
Yeah, for sure.
And in a friendship aspect, you're either going to be okay with that or not okay with that and learn how to deal with people. But, like, you know, I'm not going to lie. We started just, like, me and my brother were, you know, like, I think we're fine guys to be around, but I don't think I have any business dating the girls that I dated during that time. Like, I feel like TV had a lot to do with that, like, whatever. And I knew that. Like, and I would kind of just say to myself, like, all right, well, if you're going to have fun in that sense, just kind of, like, lean with it and have fun. And always, like, you know, we were never, you know, asses about it. Like, but just to me, I never for a second thought that it was like, oh, wow, like, we're here because we're special.
Right.
Like I always looked at it like we got lucky.
Yeah, you know what? I can totally relate to that in a sense. You know, being a professional athlete, you know, certain things are hard to gauge. You know, and I can only imagine for you, at least for myself. You know, I was in college, and then maybe I was like a big time athlete, and then I was a first round draft pick. So like that all comes with it. But you know, like you said, just being a kid from Jersey who was at 46 Lounge in Totowa the week before, and then now all of a sudden, you know, you're dating A-listers, and not necessarily being able to differentiate what's real and what's not. I think you guys did a good job, because even for myself, coming out of Syracuse University at 23, being in Hollywood, like, you know, in the off season, being in LA, Miami, New York, all these different fast cities, with money in my pocket, and it's not, you know, 21-year-old undergrads at Syracuse talking to me. It's like 26-year-old lawyers, like, hey, what's up? And it could be very overwhelming. And if you don't have like the right circle around you, it's definitely hard to stay grounded and get caught up in that stuff.
Yeah, and like for us, what was wild about it is it was us and the people around us. It's our extended family too. So there are people that I don't think adjusted to it the same way our family did, that we've known our entire lives.
Right.
And that was really, really weird. Like I grew to kind of really resent attention.
Yeah.
Like, and I was a pretty outgoing dude, like all throughout college and stuff. Like I wanted to own bars and nightclubs and everything. And I developed like a social anxiety from the show.
No, that's funny you say that. That's so crazy. I had social anxiety when, like, I'm the type of person, if we're going to like the big party, I just want to get in, sneak me and my friends through the back door, and we're good. But then when it comes to having to walk the red carpet and that's not me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And then, you know, they put you up on this pedestal and make you this person. So now, you know, when you're just going to the club, now you're like 8 deep because everybody's hanging with you, and then you get to cut the line, and then you got 100 people behind. Like, who are they? Who are they? So I used to hate that shit too, man. I can't even lie,
It's
bro.
weird, but you know what though? Like, you know, I remember before that, like I went through all 4 years of college, obviously not being on TV at all, and basically a year of law school, but I knew that the show was coming. So I remember wanting all of that stuff.
Right.
And like wanting to walk into a room and people know who you are, kind of a thing. And then when it happens, like it really sounds like I remember like hearing somebody like I forget if it was like a Jim Carrey or something like that. It was like making like $20 million a movie and was like, oh man, you don't understand how stressful this is. I'm like, yeah, dude, easy for you to say. I'll take my chances. Give me the money, I'll take my chances. And no, there's an element of it that's really strange.
It's
like,
overwhelming.
You don't.
Be
it's not what you think it is at all. And like if you don't have your right priorities straight, that world turns on you when you think you control it, and you think like, oh man, like, you know, like,
You got this.
I have to imagine. I mean, the models and the lawyers and the high rollers are great, right?
Yeah.
But there's probably more, equal if not more, of the other side, the haters, people looking to tear you down.
Oh yeah.
And talk about the social anxiety. For me, listening to this on the outside, right, walking the red carpet, right, that's easy, right? I'm not going to get anxious about that. But then just having this bullseye on you for just being you and doing what you're doing, not bothering anybody, right? Dealing with the haters, what were they like?
I mean, I still deal with a lot of. I don't think to be honest with you, I think we've had about as smooth of a ride as you can for the type of show that we were on, but it definitely exists, and it's the type of thing that I'm really cautious of to this day. You know what I mean? Like whether it's promoting things that I'm doing, you know, like dating life, like I've got a real, you know, being away from TV and the cameras now, I feel less of an obligation to share my life with people.
Right.
So like I was at Bravo not that long ago, and they were like, you know, you're 33, Al. Like, why don't you think you're married? And I just looked at them and I said, you guys don't pay me anymore. So I'm going to say whatever I want right now.
Yeah.
I said, you really think you had nothing to do with that fucking problem? Like, you think that didn't come? I don't know if I can curse. Sorry.
Yeah,
you really think you had nothing to do with that? Like, you put a camera in my face. What type of people do you think, number one, that attracts?
Right.
And then at the end of the day, you know, you're attracted to what you're attracted to back then. Like, and look, I dated a lot of really great, nice people too. I'm not saying everybody was the same, but the thing is, there are good people. There are people that are motivated by that, number one, and they're chasing that. And if you're not good at gauging it, you know, you can make mistakes, this, that, and the other. And like, I've always been the kind of guy that appreciates authentic stuff and longevity and like real things. So like, then on the alternative, you've got good people that don't necessarily want to make that part of their lives. And when you are with somebody now, like my girlfriend now, I've actually got a phobia about putting it out there, like who she is, this, that, and the other. Like, because you don't know how people are going to treat that person.
Right.
You don't know. Like we had opened a restaurant in Hoboken, and somebody went on Yelp ripping the menu. The problem is all the things they were ripping never existed. We never even cooked it. You know what I mean? But that's what, those things happen. So like you really just kind of sometimes become really guarded, and that's hard to explain for people that haven't been around it that long. But yeah, like I just kind of I've always been pretty calm about it too. Like when it happens towards me, when it happens to the other people around or the businesses and stuff is when I get a little unnerved. But if it's to me, I'm like, whatever. I've heard it all.
I find this very interesting, man. The correlations between you being a former reality star entrepreneur. Obviously, you moved on to other things, but I want to stick with this for a minute because you said something before about if you're not grounded, and there's a lot of guys that come into the NFL as regular guys, but they want those things. They want the glitz, the glamour. They want to walk the red carpet. They want the top model and all of that. And you said that, you just went with the wave. So as you saw the wave at the top and you saw it maybe starting to break, how were you able to kind of stay grounded and not, go to the dark side? Because that's what it is. Like, how did you avoid, for the long run, for the long haul, the pitfalls that come with television and all those things, and keep your head on straight and become the entrepreneur and have the life after reality TV that you've been able to provide for yourself?
I think it's really more about like, I don't think it's just stuck on whether it's TV or football or anything.
Right.
Like what you do doesn't necessarily, like from an occupational standpoint, define who you are.
Exactly.
Like if I take the approach that as a family we took to reality TV, it was like, all right, just be yourself.
Right.
And if they're going to hate us, I want you to hate me personally for who I am.
Not
something I'm trying to
change up.
Yeah, it's just kind of what it is. So when it went away, it was just, all right, you just be yourself in business. And that took a long time to really set in and work out because my philosophy in that is probably different than most people. But like the podcast, right? Taking that same exact approach is what made that show what it is. Like we are there, we are ourselves, and we have a real authentic relationship with who we're talking to. That's all I really think about. So if you kind of stay consistent and true to who you are and say, look, the value of me is not in that camera. Right. Then when it goes away, you're just going to make the most out of whatever other situation.
Yeah, that was my thing. I always tell guys, if you keep it real, you can't go wrong. Like if you keep it real with yourself, you always be real with yourself. You keep it real with the female, you keep, you can't go wrong. I just feel that works the best.
As you move on to these new opportunities, is it easy to separate what people see as the TV character, star, whatever you want to call it, from, do they take you seriously? Or do they say, here's a guy who had a big magnifying glass on him that's trying to take, advantage of opportunity here? Or are you really looked at for, the quality that you're bringing to the table?
Yeah. I'm actually really glad you asked that. That's probably my favorite part about where I'm at now. Like, I knew pretty much right away. I mean, I grew up in a family of entrepreneurs and stuff. I knew I wanted to do a lot of different things. And when the show kind of happened, I think a lot of people at face value are like, who's this, so-and-so guy from, like, the Housewives? Like, he's got to be a chump. Right. And I really liked that. Like, in the beginning, there was, like, kind of a little chip on my shoulder kind of thing. And you see kind of the way I operate now, there's a lot of, like, the phobias that I have that we talked about before are present. I don't have a website. I'm barely on LinkedIn. Like, I don't want people seeing who I'm going back and forth with. Some of the clients that I have on a consulting basis are pretty massive companies that I'm NDA'd out the you-know-what for a lot of different reasons. You know what I mean? But, like, at the end of the day, you kind of, you walk into a room, and if somebody's going to assume that, like, I want the real you. You know what I mean? Right. And that puts me at a major, major, major advantage because I come correct in those moments. And, like, honestly, anything about business, I judge the people first, always, because you can't change that in the deal. Like, that's the one thing in every single deal you do, you cannot ever change. And reality TV was actually a really big helpful tool with that, because I can tell pretty quick, meaning somebody, if you became famous, if you would turn into like a total, mess, like whatever, Yeah. So is money will do the same thing.
That makes plenty sense. How were you able to, did you always have that, I guess, hustle, that entrepreneur spirit? Like, a lot of reality people that get the opportunity to be on reality shows, they look at it short-sighted. You know what I mean? It seems as if you looked at the long play at some point.
And I don't even think it's just reality stuff,
and
right?
life.
Athletes, people.
Oh,
right?
athletes for sure. Athletes are 1,000% short-sighted. Like I heard you say, even before you got on the show, you were in grad school. Like while I was playing, I went back to get my master's. I got an MBA. You know what I'm saying? Because I was progressively thinking like yourself, and I'm sure like other people. So yeah, where did that come from in you?
I mean, that was all my parents. Like my dad works like an animal to this day. There was never really like, there were moments, and you see it now, even with like social media stuff. Like there are people that look at the definition of success is the camera itself. Oh, I'm here. I'm on TV. My job is done.
Right.
I've got a lot of followers now. My job is done. You know what I mean? That's what they look at. I looked at everything as a vehicle. That came from, definitely both my parents, but my dad especially. What he's built in his life and how he built it. Like, I think of anything other than like an 18-hour workday as being like half a day.
Right.
So it was a lot of that. But yeah, there's a lot of other people that don't necessarily take that approach and it works for them. But like, I can't necessarily hate on somebody that makes a career fully of giving into the whole reality thing, getting super, super obsessed with it, making all the money that they can because they're allowing certain narratives to go in a direction that might not be real, or maybe acting up and creating issues in their own life. If you want to take that, you're in love with it and you're making millions, good for you. But like, you have to kind of accept what's your value system.
Right.
You know what I mean? If that's what you value, then yeah, you can lean into that and make a ton of money, right? But I got a ton of respect for guys that like you guys work your whole lives to get to the spot that you're in. You know what I mean? And there's a risk every time you go out there where that could be taken away from you. There's we got friendly with a lot of athletes, and it was crazy for us because number one, getting to know the guys kind of changed the way I looked at sports in a way.
Yeah.
When that Super Bowl game, we were really, really close to Travis Beckham. Like, he was one of the reasons we went. I think he tore his ACL in the middle of the game when the Giants were down. I was like, this is like the worst day of my life. It was so crazy. And then, we got close with, like Marcus Coon's one of our best friends in the world.
Right.
Okay. That guy leaving his profession, that honestly, he gets into that, coming from Germany, his whole story is insane, but so smart to say, what else am I going to bring this to? And gets a degree and like all the stuff that he's doing broadcasting wise. Like, those are the type of people that I think we're just attracted to in general. So like, you kind of create this circle around you of everybody that's like, kind of inspires each other that way and supports each other, but does it in like, I'm just trying to have a beer with you, chill out, this, that, and the other. But like, your vibe and all of that is going to rub off kind of one way or the other.
And Keith, you've always said this about Nashville too, right? It's the football players, it's the Predators, it's some country music people, kind of the people that you associate with. Is that because of really they understand where you're coming from? No?
Yeah, I mean, we're all speaking the same language, man. It's just kind of like a vibe. When I played in Nashville, like for me, it was never about it was a small market, so you couldn't be a superstar if you wanted, and if you wanted to, you had to wait your turn in line because they had Eddie George and Steve McNair and, a couple other guys. So for me, I was just trying to get on the field. It was a first-round draft pick. I was like, damn, am I a scrub? Am I a bust? For whatever reason, I wasn't playing right away. I knew the first year because we just came from the Super Bowl. But yeah, man, I was just myself in my interviews. I played there for 10 years. People will see me, after a loss at a bar, soaking my sorrows, drinking my sorrows away. So, like, people like to see that, the real person, you showing emotion. I was an emotional player. I was a sore loser. And, like, you're never supposed to be happy when you lose. So yeah, people can relate to that, and then at the same time, you attract like people. And, you know, when you're in a particular spotlight, you're going to attract everyone. You know what I mean? Some good, some bad, some fun, some not so much fun. But you have to realize most of those people aren't going to be in your life forever, and that's what you were speaking to. That's the hard part to realize, especially when you're young and you're just getting into it and everything's going, 200 miles per hour, man. That shit is fun. Like, you know, we're talking about, the pitfalls and stuff, but yeah, you definitely take advantage, you indulge, and then, you just got to come to a realization on your own when really reality sets in. I feel like it's, a situation or two for a person, things just start to open your eyes a little bit more. You'd be like, hold on, it's a little weird. Why would they do that? Yeah. Or, no, this party's, I like to party, but I don't like to party like them. Like, you know what I'm saying?
And it takes you a minute, too. Like, I'm not trying to, it's plenty fun also. There's a lot of that. But, yeah, I think part of it maybe even, too, just comes with growing up, but there's this moment in life where, you're getting paid to just kind of do what you like doing. Like in my case, it was hanging out with my family, and then one day it's just like, all right, that's gone. Like you got to have a head to be able to say, what am I doing after?
Who was the biggest star that you met that you never would have thought that you met and really had a conversation with and might have hung out with for even ever so briefly or long?
Through the show, We've had some pretty cool people we've hung out with. John Legend was pretty cool. Nice. He's him and Chrissy Teigen have been really, really awesome. When we were on the show, they were Watch What Happens Live and stuff. John would be cool. Right. They're probably my favorite people that we met from there. But people that I was excited to meet, I was a big Devils fan, and a bunch of the Devils guys, the Giants guys, like I was saying. I met Brian Cashman, which nice. To me was the biggest deal in the world. and we met Brian Cashman and we met Theo Epstein. Oh, nice. And I sat down with Theo in Chicago, and through I guess it actually was a family.
He's our age. He's 30s.
Honestly,
right?
Yeah. So I sit down and I was like, Theo, I just gotta say it, man. I hated you forever. From the Red Sox and all this stuff. And he was like, no, it's the best compliment. That stuff is really, really weird.
He had to be in mad rotisserie leagues growing up. You know what I'm saying? He's so in tune to baseball at such a young age.
But they're so cool. A lot of it, that's the weird thing too, because there's this. I remember feeling there was this layer of just you can't relate to those people ever.
Right. And
then meeting them and seeing a lot of them are just super, super normal. Sometimes I've met people and they were just total dicks and I didn't really want to be around them. There's a lot of that too. Yeah, we were, it was a lot of fun.
What brings you the most gratification in life now? When, just 2019?
Right now, I mean, I got this addiction to just progress in life, and that can mean a lot of different things, like work stuff now. I got to get into it, but I when leaving that show, reinventing what I do for a living and making it something that I can actually earn a living on was a long road. It sucked. I got into crazy ass debt to try and get the stuff.
Transition, man. I had to transition. It's crazy. So it's a career. You had a career on a reality show.
Well, think about it. You're not gonna get up and tell a job, hey, I got to disappear for 8 months. That's not gonna happen.
Right.
And these guys are paying you to do this show, and it's always just enough to be like, oh, how do I not do that? You know what I mean? So now. That's awesome at 23.
Right.
But when you get to 30, it's this is not working.
Yeah, where's your privacy?
But it's that, but it's also all right, in all this time, it's okay, well, what am I going to just start somewhere? So
I haven't built any experience or built any job.
Yeah. And I was always working with brands and stuff, but at the same time, it was okay, well, you gotta make something happen. You have to, kind of create it for yourself. So doing that was awesome. My favorite, my niece is probably the greatest thing in the world to me. The strides I've kind of made personally on that end, so building the business has been really, really awesome. Getting into relationships that seem meaningful and authentic now. In my personal life are really, in a lot of ways, are it just seems like a bigger, almost I hate saying the word accomplishment for that, but I feel I'm in the only career ever where being normal was an accomplishment.
So let me, you said, going into businesses. So I know for me, I always knew I expanded more than an athlete. That's why I went back and got my MBA. So I can invest and do the business things that I want to do. With that being said, do you feel? Well, I felt I had to do that because I was an athlete, and business people might not take me as serious if I'm not up on their level as far as terms and speaking business. Do you feel you got any pushback from businesses or business opportunities that you wanted to have or partake in, and they didn't take you serious just because of the space you came from?
Yeah, but I think that I eventually looked at that as a strength. I think going in when I didn't necessarily have a ton of confidence because I was just going out on my own, there's a little bit of that chip on your shoulder. You're motivated by like anger, and I had a trainer. His name's Roderick out here. We did some scenes with him. He's an amazing dude. And he was training me I was kind of like just kind of out of shape, whatever. And we get halfway through and he says, I'm going to stop. I said, why? He goes, well, I think you're just like doing this for the wrong reasons. I think you're trying to get back at people, like a girlfriend messed around on you or something. Now you want to go look good. Right. And like he knew parts of my personality, like personal life, that he was talking from a place of, he knew what he was saying. And he said, you can't get good fruit from a bad tree. He goes, I'm not going to plant a bad tree. And I was like, damn. He was like, and it was a lot of like that self-love stuff that was really, really, right. Taking those lessons and applying it to business. I just say to myself now, like, I deserve to be in every room that I'm in. And I don't look at myself as better or worse than anybody that's there. So if I catch that from you, my mind's made up. Right. I don't want to work with you. Yeah. And that's cool. We can have a conversation, this, that, and the other. You could be throwing a check and a half. It's just not something I'm going to be interested in. You could also be the greatest person in the world and say, look, I just have an idea, but that to me, I know I'm not going to find. You know what I mean? So I'll rock with that. But like, there's a lot of things that, to that end, I really like it because your guard is down. You're not taking me seriously. That means like it's like a game. Okay, like if you're prepping for the game next week, okay, and you're
looking past me, you're in trouble.
You've got a very serious problem, and I love that because I get into that room, your ass is mine, and I smell that from a mile away, and I love it. You know what I mean? I had that happen not that long ago, a couple of weeks ago. Like, somebody asked for a meeting, and they said, "Well, what can you do for our business?" And I go, "You guys called me." So, like, do you hit up every stranger?
Up. Yeah.
Do you hit every stranger up and say, "Hey, what can you do? Like, what's up? Like, why don't we just kind of like cut the shit? Like, what are we doing?"
Right.
And like, my mind's kind of made up in that moment.
I like that.
You know what I mean? But like, that's just to me, like, just keeping it very like that's where the authentic stuff is to me, like just kind of be normal, be yourself.
Right, and then switching back to like the social end of it, right? Mm-hmm. What do you have? I don't know, 300,000 followers?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, mm-hmm. Something ridiculous like that, right? So these brands see these like big numbers, like throw stuff at you, right? I think it's kind of how do you embrace the role, or maybe not embrace the role of social media influencer now, right? So you go from reality star, all the stuff in between, and I'm generalizing. I'm not labeling you, right? But if outside looking in, right? Oh, he's a reality star. Now he's a guy with 300,000 Instagram followers. He must be an Instagram influencer, right? I
mean, look, if things align, and I look at that feed as almost kind of like a personal diary for me. I didn't have like a lot of people will complain because like I'll just post a picture of a building because I like it. Like that to me is just like my place. You know what I mean? I just like
You're
it.
You're still keeping it personal, right?
To me it's a personal
it's
thing.
Your social media. It's not like.
But like if a brand
you're not a billboard per se.
Yeah, but like at the same time, like if it's gonna be something that like I've used it more to create partnerships than anything. Like if there's a brand that I like. I've been on both sides, so like I have my brands where influencers will sit down with me. I'm probably the worst person in the world to negotiate with on that end because I've seen it on both sides, right. So like, there will come to me and say, hey, look, there's a brand that wants to pay you for a post, and if I'm really into it that much, I'll say, listen, I'll take half the money in a meeting with the founder, and like I've made deals happen that way.
I like that too,
which is cool,
Yeah, I mean, I'm in the middle. I'm doing my first franchise in Nashville, and you're into brands. Don's into brands. I got into brands with this guy, but yeah, like it's this local coffee shop. I like everything that they're about, so let's cross brand. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm just not. I just don't want to have a franchise. I want to be an owner in this whole company. How are we going to help each other? Get this done. So that's definitely. The power of having over 300,000 followers, which I don't. Don, help me out.
Get on TV. So you used to be. I mean, hey, you used to be on live TV every week, right?
Yeah, but then I went to business school. So, hey, so Dear Albie has a whole lot of success, man. What are some things that you can help two young guys out in the podcast game?
Before you go there though, relate it, right? You must have been missing that spotlight a little bit, right? So you're like, what can I do to kind of scratch that itch a little bit? Like, let me do a podcast.
That's
not relating it.
No, you know what?
No, because then I want to talk about.
You're just saying.
Right, then I want to talk about the success of the podcast, but there has to be something driving that want to get back out there.
You know what? I'll tell you what it really was. I don't think it was so much. I didn't expect it to happen. I expected it. I really, really mean this. I expected the feedback to be negative. So when it went as well as it went, I was as surprised as pretty much anybody. And it was a really, really good feeling because people were saying to us, like, we just missed you guys. Like, talking and all this other stuff and having the access. And I'll tell you the truth, like, it has definitely been a thing where I didn't realize how much I missed the ability to kind of sound off on stuff. Because, yeah, truth be told, like, when things happen, you know, let's say somebody says something about your family in the press kind of a thing. Yeah, you've got like this weapon to say something back
Word up.
instead of not being on the show anymore. Yeah, that helps. But like, so that's crossed my mind one or two times. But like outside of that, it's cool to get the inbound. And what's really, really cool about Dear Albie is people write in questions about themselves because they've seen us go through things for years on TV and share our lives with them, and now they're sharing them with us. And dude, we've had everything from, you know, my boyfriend faked a drug test by buying synthetic urine. Does that mean I can't trust him? To me getting catfished on the show, to people literally ending their marriages on that show because they admit to cheating on their husband, and it gets out because he listens too.
Shit.
You know, we don't ask for it. We just kind of take what comes. And
Yeah, we're gonna do the same.
you know, I joke around, man, but like honestly, it's really become like this cool, just like community of people.
Right.
Like we went recently, we bought like t-shirts. I never wanted to be like, oh man, we're doing merch. I never
Gotta do merch.
But, you know, it's funny.
Give the fans what they want.
Gotta do merch.
Somebody hits us up and says, hey, you know, I'm going through a rough time and I want to kind of go to school, but like, you know, I just lost my job, this, that, and I've been making t-shirts on the side. I'm like, you know what, screw it. Like, let's do it through her. And like, literally, we kept everything in house.
That's dope.
That's not like a ploy. We just kind of, we're being ourselves. You know what I mean? Like, that to me is the recipe. Just kind of like chill out, be yourself. And, you know, that hopefully will work until, you know, one of us just turns out to be an asshole. But like, you know, until now, it's all right.
Look, man, I honestly say, like, you know, obviously we met like years ago with Nando in Hoboken, had some drinks. You and your brother would chill. Years later, the same thing. I enjoy that, you know, you being genuine. I have a lot of friends in LA, Hollywood and stuff like that. And it's like nobody is friends with anybody in LA. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
In that Hollywood thing, because it's like, you know, like you said, when you're on your show, you might be talking to this person every day for 3 months. And then show's over, see them 2 years later. You know, you might, obviously, I know I'm feeling your personality. You'll go, hey, what's up? But, you know, hey, I ain't got time for that. And I know you're the type of person that ain't got time for that shit neither. That big time. I ain't got time for nobody to big time me because ain't nobody that big time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, something Keith said, you know, when you retired, right, a lot of those doors that once opened kind of closed, right?
Yeah, totally. I remember when I was playing, like, people would always come to my locker for like a soundbite, especially if we're losing or we're playing a big game or somebody on the other team was talking shit or, you know, just like that. And like, you know, a common compliment I don't know if it was a compliment, but common comment I would get is like, oh, you interview really well. You got a career in broadcasting when you're done. You know what I mean? So, actually, which wasn't a lie, I did, you know, I had a face for radio as soon as I was retired. So, worked at Sirius XM. But, yeah, man, ain't nobody knocking down your door once you're done. But that's what I respect about you. You got out there and you got to hustle. And, look, I'm a New Yorker, so I'm going to definitely get out there and hustle and do the things that I want to do because from the platform that the NFL provided, kind of like yourself, from, you know, the platform that your series provided.
Yeah, no, look, I mean, I think, you know, same thing meeting you, man. Like, you know, we definitely, you know, you kind of recognize when somebody else is like approaches life in a similar way. It isn't kind of like snowed by a lot of this stuff. I've been around a lot of guys just kind of in life in general that have been in a position way less, okay, like even a college athlete status thing that's like very kind of dismissive. So I think honestly, for you guys, this is I'm pretty excited for you. I mean, I think this is going to be awesome. So look, I don't think the Dear Albie thing is not like. I've had people that'll say to me, I'm like, want to do a podcast, do this, do that. Like, what do you think we should do? And I'm like, bro, if I listened to me, this would have never happened. like if it wasn't for,
it sounds familiar.
It's just the truth, So, man, I'm excited for you guys. I think it's gonna be cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing that feedback I got is like, who needs another podcast? Or who needs another conference? Or who needs another this? So it's just, that's why I think we kind of took a step back. We were trying to get, all right, we're going to format it this way. We're going to do this. And you're like, you know what? We're going to let our personalities fly, have these conversations, have interesting, cool people on that we want to talk to.
Yeah.
And, let that speak for itself. And if it doesn't, it doesn't, but let's have some fun doing it. And I think it's going to work.
Yeah. No, look, man, we listen.
What are you working on now? Personally,
everything.
So, man of all trades.
I do business 2 different ways. I do like a sweat equity type deal because basically, honestly, I coming out of the show, I took all the money that I had at the time and invested it into a couple of deals that I had been working on. I'm in everything from beverage to meal prep to preserved roses to clothing, and then I've got clients I'll consult for, which is like I don't know how this happened, but
I need to get a consultant.
These guys, no, it's wild because these guys that are just like super successful in other businesses. There was one guy that came to me and just said, "Look, I've never put together, I want to do a clothing line." I'm like, "Dude, I don't do clothes." He's like, "Well, somebody told me that you know how to build brands." I'm like, "Yeah, but I've just never done clothes before." He's like, "Just shut up, I want you to do it." So I was like, "All right, you know what? I was like, dude, you seem cool. Let's do it." And like, so there's a lot of that stuff too. So I'm involved in like a couple different tech companies and stuff like that, like random stuff that'll show up and just say, "Hey, we want you to do X, Y, and Z."
Which one really gets you out of bed in the morning?
The most excited that I get. It's a good question, one that I'm probably smart enough not to answer because it'll piss some people off. Honestly, I think I'm the most myself with, this is going to make me throw up. When we did the podcast, I remember sitting down and talking to some people that were going to help us, try and get advertising, this, that, and the other. And I was like, dude, I know in my brain, this is, like, I'm not just saying this. I know I'm pulling the plug on this thing. And I said, never in my life, from the second I push button on this, I'm not going to be like, oh, I'm also a podcaster. Right. Dude, I'm telling you, after a while, I'm like, okay. The most myself I feel is actually on that show. And I love the consulting brands that I work with now, like Bloom and Birch, the flowers are a lot of fun because I see elements of that. Like I try and, you ever seen Defiant Ones on HBO? Yeah. With Jimmy Iovine? Yeah. That was the most I ever related to a human being in my life. I mean, he's way more successful than I'll ever be. But like when I saw him talk about how he gets an artist in a booth and what he wants to bring out of them, that was the best way to answer a question that I've never, ever been able to answer, which is, what do you do? And he just puts somebody in a booth and wants to get the best out of them that he can. I'll take a founder of a company and I'll say to myself, how do I get the best out of you that I can while building around you to say, how do we make this company successful, And that's a really addicting thing when it goes well. The road to where I am right now was absolutely horrible. Like it just sucks. Anybody that hits me up and they're like, I'll go to these entrepreneurship things and somebody asks me to speak and stuff, and I'm like, all right, whatever. Like I'll go. I don't think I've got something to teach, but at the end of the day, I do things how I do them. Right. If you take something away from it, that's on you. But I'll be around people and they'll be like, you got to eat, sleep, and breathe this every second of the day. Like there isn't a moment that I need to know I was going to be super successful, bro. I cried my ass to sleep forever. But right. When you're doing this right, it's terrible. You're in debt. Things aren't going well. Problems come before any benefit at all. That is a guarantee. So I just try and find the problems that I like.
At the end of the day, I'm sorry.
I was gonna say, would you do it again?
There's not a single thing I would change. If I was successful day one, in my business out of the show, I probably would not. I probably would have handled it wrong. Yeah. Like going through all of the roads that were just terrible, whether it's being screwed out of things or launching things that fail. Even personal relationships, like I think I appreciate what I've got going on now because of every bad one that came before it. Like you learn how to appreciate when, somebody's just like you're in a situation where in business people ask me my biggest success story. I had a deal that was gigantic, multi-million dollar deal. Like I shook my hand and said, I'm going to run a test on this product. All it has to do is come back. And the numbers got to be what we know they are because it was I'm like obviously rushing through this. I had this stuff in my hands. I knew it worked, type of thing. He goes, everything's going to look awesome. Next time I see you, I'm going to write you a check for $6 million. I got on a plane to Chicago. We were doing the Steve Harvey show the next day. I cried my ass off the entire way on the plane. I was like, I couldn't believe it. I was calling lawyers, getting everything done. The tests come back and no go. The guy kills the entire deal. Wow. And I call it my biggest success ever because all of my partners in that deal got on the phone. Nobody yelled and screamed. Nobody blamed anybody for it. We were like, all right, let's dust off and find something else. And we did. And it wasn't like, some crazy ass thing. But at the end of the day, like that's a business that, it's profitable for all of us right now. So that to me is it's a success because I think when you are led by emotion, energy, and you're worried about yourself and what's in it for you, I could have easily said, oh, I'm going to blame you, whether it's your fault or not. You know what I mean? So that there are a lot of moments like that, and I think what I'm most proud of is the partnerships that I have are all people that I genuinely love.
Yeah. So. At the end of the day, man, it sounds like we have similar mentality in the sense that it all comes down to mentality. Your mentality and approach you took to when they were putting cameras on your face, and really more so the killer mentality that you have after, now that you're going after the business things that you want. And it correlates to sports as well, because the guys that I see in, the NFL and whatnot, they can have all the talent, or you can correlate it to any sport. If you played in high school or whatever, they have all the talent, but they don't put in the work ethic, or they don't want to practice as hard, or this is just too challenging. I can't do it. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So once they start talking that I can't do it stuff, it's kind of a wrap. And I totally relate in the sense of, hanging out with guys like Povia and Nando, DiFino, who come from a totally different space, but are, creative and very, very confident in what they do in those spaces to, get someone like myself and other people to, kind of step outside of, themselves and get in the booth and do a podcast.
I mean, really.
Or come up to Toronto.
But I don't know about Nando, but I'm kind of like Albie here. Yeah, there are times that you just want to just pull your hair out and cry. Yeah. But I think it all comes down to like betting on yourself, which both you guys.
Got to.
I mean, that's kind of what you're talking about here is kind of having your moral compass, having your vision of what you want to do, and trusting yourself that, you're the one that you got to trust, if nobody else.
Not too many people, especially in this day and age, too many people rely on other people to get things done, and they don't just put the onus on their back and let's make it happen. That's what life's about.
And not for nothing, but a lot of people in those industries have people that are just falling over themselves to do things for them, right? And so people grow complacent and lazy and say, well, people have always done this, people have always done that, and never had to take the initiative.
Yeah, got to be a hustler, baby.
You got it. It's like that's the type of thing where I can't imagine having a job. I just can't. Like I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, no, I would have never worked. Like I always said, I would never. It's interesting. I was in foster care, so like my guardian told me like when I made it to the NFL, she was like, yeah, when you're about 13. You did tell me you'll never work. You'll never work. And she was like, a kid, I don't know how you're going to do that. But I kind of made it happen in my own way.
But I mean, like you worked like your ass off to get to that spot.
For sure,
and I'm not saying don't work, but here's what a job is to me. If I'm going to sit down with some guy that I've never met in my entire life and you're going to put a number on what I'm capable of doing,
right?
Not for me. Like I just like no matter what I do, no matter how hard I work, like I cannot put a number on what value that I bring to an organization. I can't do it. I don't have a set thing. When it comes off the top of my head in the meetings I have now, So like, it's just the type of thing where I just feel strongly that like being in charge of your own destiny is a good thing. I like it. I never work and I work every day. Like I'm working right now. You know what I mean? Like it's just the type of way it's the only way I really know how to live life. So I like it.
All right. So you got any Dear Albie questions for him?
Oh, I feel like I asked Albie hella questions. You know what I'm saying?
Nothing you got to get off your chest.
I'm trying to get on Dear Albie podcast so he can shoot something my way.
We can make it happen.
Word.
Nah,
I'm the one that sends all the fake questions that way just to get on there.
It's the Wild West, man. It's
I'm with
the
it.
Wild West.
I'm with it,
man. It really is.
Did you really have that disdain for the daughter, Abby's daughter?
No, I never had a problem with that. Well, you know what's funny? Like they, my brother has like every time he'll hear their answers, because in the very beginning it was like all Dear Abby's all the time, and the amount of emails that we got, it became really tough to keep the Dear Abby's in the show all the time. Yeah. It's a debate me and the guys have all the time, because I think it's important that if these guys are going to take the time in, like, you know, you got to kind of interact with them, right? But yeah, like Chris would read the responses and would get so upset because you feel like he would never agree with anything they were saying. You know what I mean? And me and Chris are like, we're yin and yang. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
we couldn't be further apart.
You know,
we really couldn't. But, you know.
All right. Well, Keith, you'll be a guest therapist on the show sometime.
But nah, no therapy. Although my major was psychology, but I only took that because I had that's the most credits I had by the time I was a sophomore. And you had to pick your major. They're like, "What are you gonna major in?" It's like,
let me count them up.
Psychology.
You didn't take any of the well, you're Syracuse, right? You
know.
Take your pride on the academic side a little bit, as opposed to
I was just trying to get through that thing. Hey, you know what though? Yeah, Coach Pasqualoni, who was my head coach at the time, like we definitely had a 90% graduation rate. Like we definitely were one of those schools that, like, if you have a bad semester, they're gonna send your ass to OCC, Onondaga Community College. If you pick your grades up, you come back, you know, on every night a study table. But they'll give you one shot, like academically at Syracuse, where like Alabama and LSU and all those schools, it don't even matter. Don't go to class. Just come to practice.
It's awesome. It's important.
So you ever get back to Totowa? Get to that bar and all?
You own the bar?
I'm actually trying to say that. I haven't been to that place, and I don't even remember how long. But it was, I tell that story.
I got some of those bars, man, that you used to go to when you first like made it or just first hit your little stride.
Yeah, it was just like my little spot. You know what I mean? Like years ago. And then when we went to Hoboken, it was just like, you know, it was lights out. Like that place is just so much fun. And
lights out for real, because sometimes I don't remember coming home from Hoboken.
That's what I'm saying. Like but it's a fun town, you know. But I haven't gotten out that much. I'm getting old, man. You know.
Well, Albie Manzo, thank you for joining us on the Outside Game. Any last words, or are we good?
No, I think we're good.
Appreciate you, man. I appreciate you dropping mad knowledge on, you know, our listeners, man. I think they can learn a lot from, you know, everything you spoke to.
Well, even just making assumptions, you know, of who he might be, or people just, man, open it up. It was really refreshing, to be honest with you.
That's awesome. That's a really nice way of saying that you thought it was totally going to be a waste of time on this thing.
No, I'm not a waste of time.
I'll play it.
No, what I meant is personality-wise. Like, your personality. I
swear to God,
I
the second
you clarify.
I was like, oh, man, he's teeing us up. I've said that one before. I've said that one before. I was like, man, I'm gonna hit this like 300-something yards. I'm sorry.
You weren't an asshole. Let's put it that way. I didn't think it would be boring. Dude, I didn't think it would be boring. I just didn't know if I was going to like it.
That's fine. I'm with that. Dude, the best compliment we ever got was when we first moved to Hoboken. There were a couple of spots we'd go to, and there guys would come out that would own a restaurant and be like, I did not want to like you guys. I was like, man, you know what? I like that. I like that a lot. So, no, you guys are awesome, man. Anytime.
Awesome. Well, Keith Bulluck, Tom Povia, thank you for the Outside Game. Check us out at theoutsitegame.com or the Outside Game on all the socials that matter, I like to say. Until next week, Mr. Monday Night.
Peace.